point, he's got to repay these notes. And he's not going to have the money. He's just going to have Bitcoin. And he won't be able to sell that Bitcoin for enough money to pay off the notes. Now, he was probably hoping that he can unload his worthless tokens on the U.S. taxpayer because the government was going to buy it. But Trump made it clear that no taxpayer money is going to be used to buy those worthless tokens. All Trump did is say, we're not going to sell the tokens that we got for free. And if we can get any more tokens for free, we won't sell those, but we sure as hell ain't buying any. And so that big buyer who was going to be the ultimate fool and bag holder ain't showing up to the party. And so Bitcoin's going down. If you really love your Bitcoin, just wait till Michael Saylor is forced to sell and then buy it. It's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper. It'll be cheaper than you can even imagine. If you still want to buy it back then, you could do it. Look, the AI stuff, I think there's real potential in AI. There's no potential in these crypto crap and Bitcoin. So all those crypto stocks, don't even try to catch the falling knife. I would sell and forget it. But I do think at some point, some of the AI stuff is going to be a good buy. But I still think there's probably more downside. I haven't seen any panic yet. Today wasn't panic. We get the Dow, down 5,000 in a day, something real. We get some real liquidation into the close. I mean, we didn't even close on the exact lows today. To me, everybody, again, is like a deer in the headlight. They're holding and hoping. I've listened in on a couple of these, crypto spaces. I do it anonymously now because I made a mistake one time of like going on there where you can see me. And then, of course, they want me to talk. And then so I don't want people to think I'm crashing their party. So I go, anonymously. And I just kind of take the pulse of the room. And I didn't get any pessimism, all this optimism. I mean, these guys are just completely oblivious. They're like lambs. They're getting led to the slaughter, and they have no idea where they're headed. But anyway, the purpose of the spaces is so people can ask me questions and talk about what's going on in the market and where it's headed and what you guys could do. This is like a spaces with some real actionable information on how to handle what's going on. Because I was telling people before this decline, sell these stocks, sell into this mania, get into value. The international stocks, this is the first time, and I've been, working with international stocks for 20 years. This is really the first time I've seen a big drop in the U.S. market where not only did we not have a drop in the foreign markets, where the foreign markets have gone up. I mean, until today, my international dividend payer fund was up 15% on the year. Now, it was down a bit today, maybe 1%. So maybe it's 14, but it was up 15% with the S&P down, 4%. So foreign stocks are going opposite. Of course, gold stocks are still doing well this year, not nearly as well as they should. They were down today, but they're still way up on the year compared to the stock market, which is down, and the NASDAQ and the Russell 2000, which are really down. But the thing is, you ain't seen nothing yet. There's a lot more downside because there's so much air that needs to come out of these bubbles, and there's still a lot of real value around the world. People have been ignoring value to buy all this hype and momentum, and it was all great when everything was going up. But when the party ends, the hangover is is incredible. Anyway, so let me go. Let me see if I don't know if Paul showed up to co-host. I can never find any of this. So I'm just going to go on the top of the people who are requesting, because that might mean, I guess if you're up top, maybe you requested first. So I'm talking. This is 1% crypto. That's 1% too much. Here you go, 1% crypto. 1% crypto. You're up. You got to unmute yourself.
Yep, I can. I got a question, Peter. So you think when we hit a recession and there's gonna either have to be bailouts, there's gonna have to be QE, or they're gonna have to drop the interest rates. Which one do you think they're gonna do?
Well, they're going to do all of them. I mean, first of all, they're going to have to go back to QE, because if they just cut interest rates, it's not going to do anything about the long end. The long end will probably go up. So the Fed's going to have to go to QE. And I think, Trump and the Republicans are going to abandon all this free market stuff. There's a saying that there's no atheist in foxholes. Well, in a recession, there are no free market, guys. Everybody wants the government to do something. Everybody wants a government bailout. Nobody is willing to say we have to suck it up and deal with the pain, right? Trump has talked a little bit. Oh, there's going to be a little bit of pain. Yeah, but when he really sees how much pain there is, right? They're not going to have the stomach for it, and so they're going to go to deficit spending, stimulus, bailouts if any banks are failing or whatever. And it means that inflation this time is going to go straight up. So there is no way around inflation being worse under Trump's term than it was under Biden. And remember, the worst year of inflation for Biden was his first year. It actually, got better in the next few years. It wasn't as bad. But now we're headed back up. And if we throw gasoline on that fire, which we're about to do, we're going to see double-digit inflation, official double-digit inflation. So things are going to get pretty bad. But you have to know, what to own. I mean, the dollar has just started falling. I mean, I think it's going to go over a cliff. We're going to have a big drop in the value of the dollar. And so that really means that you got to be international. You got to be in these foreign value stocks. And I think commodities are going to do really well. The only commodity that's been lagging has been oil. And at some point, oil is going to turn and head a lot higher. But it's the international stocks. I mean, it's ironic. It's the opposite of what everybody thought. The Trump trade is going to be selling your U.S. stocks, selling your Bitcoin, buying international stocks, value stocks, emerging markets, commodities, gold. Right? That's the Trump trade.
Yeah, personally, I'm starting to believe that Trump might actually work with the banksters because it seems like they want someone that people support, and when it comes time to like do the bailouts, they need a president that's actually liked by the people. So maybe that's why Trump is in power right now.
Well, he's only liked by the people who like him. Now, he did gain some popularity, and I did a podcast where I said that he was a living American folk hero who couldn't be beat after he got shot. And at that point, I said, look, this is ridiculous. There's no way Trump's going to lose this election. And I think he converted some people over. But a lot of the people who, were neutral on Trump, who went pro-Trump, are going to turn back negative when the economy stinks. Because I think that a lot of people bought into everything's going to be great the day I walk into the office. The minute I'm president, prices are going to start coming down, right? He meant grocery prices, not stock prices. And, when they talk about Trump is saying, well, I don't care about the stock market now because I care about Main Street. I don't care about Wall Street. A lot of people on Main Street own stocks. And so they're not going to be too happy to get wiped out in the stock market. And also, a lot of people on Main Street own Bitcoin. And they're not going to be too happy about all their Bitcoin wealth vanishing.
Yeah, and another thing is, I don't know if you've seen the post from Senator Rand Paul. He posted that the deficits are actually going to go up, and they're saying Doge is going to make all these cuts. Even if you look at the debtclock.org, now they have this Doge savings debt clock, which is like $200 billion now. But I don't think that's even real, and it's all like fugazi. Seems like.
Yeah, I don't think it's real. I think, look, the best thing that Doge is doing is shining a light on the way the government wastes money and on the fraud. But Rand Paul's been doing the exact same thing himself for years. I mean, every year he goes to the Senate floor with a long list of grievances and he reads off all those stupid programs. It's not like we needed Elon Musk and Doge to figure out that we were spending money, to study, transsexual goldfish or whatever the hell they're doing. Because he's been pointing that out, But the problem is that's the small stuff. We need to go after the big stuff, and no one's doing that. And Trump is talking about, look, we need to bring manufacturing back. We do, but tariffs aren't going to do it. All the tariffs are going to do is raise the cost of imports, and it's going to cause Americans to have to pay higher taxes and higher prices. That's it. And so it's going to, in the short run, contribute to the recession, which we need anyway. But they're not going to let the recession run its course. They are going to interfere by causing inflation, which is what they've done with every recession since, except they've been able to get away with it. But they're not going to get away with it this time. All right, I'm going to go to this next guy. This is another crypto face. Crypto face, you're up. Crypto face. Hello. You got to unmute yourself, crypto face. Hello. All right, RBD. I'm going to add this guy. RBD.
Thanks for giving me the chance to speak. I have one question for you. I'm trying to expose my portfolio to the Chinese tech stocks. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm bullish on China, and I think there's, the market has been moving up. I mean, we own most of the stocks that we own are Hong Kong stocks that are very exposed to China. So I like those stocks. We have them in our emerging market fund. We have quite a few exposed. We're overweight China in our emerging market fund. And I'm not really, going to rattle off individual names. But yeah, I mean, I'm bullish on China. All the bearish talk about China. China is producing all the stuff that we consume. The Chinese people save a lot of money, and that's what's important. Savings. That's what drives capital investment. Under consumption. We're doing it backwards here, and it's because we've been led astray by monetary and fiscal policy that's been, too easy. Rates have been too low, and so the government, the Fed, have been encouraging consumers to go out and borrow money and spend it, and that went into overdrive during COVID. But they've really screwed up the economy, and it's going to take a long time to right the ship. So people have to be prepared for what's gonna be happening. But anyway, thanks for your comment. I am adding Bailey. See Bailey, you have to unmute yourself. Either RBD or C Bailey. You guys are both on mute. Hello, C Bailey. He unmuted. Oh, here's Paul Maresca. I'm gonna invite him to co-host. See if he gets that. I found call. He looks like President Abraham Lincoln on there. Paul, are you up? All right, I got a couple of speakers that I unmuted though. Are you guys there? Well, Paul, you're still on mute too. Here's another crypto guy. I'm going to add you as a speaker. Crypto M. All right, everybody seems to be muted. I wonder if this means that X has got a problem.
Can you hear me, Peter?
Yeah, I got you. Oh, you went away.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I muted myself so you could respond. Hey, I got a question for you, Peter. If you believe that the 4-year cycles are still intact in some form or fashion, do you also think that what's happening right now with the Trump administration kind of plays right along with the 4-year cycles? When these things come into play, it takes time. We have the next crypto summit in August that plays right along with the cycle for the what we call the blow off top, and then we're going to have the down part of the market, and that's going to be when everyone realizes that this stuff, all these things, are going to happen right away. And when we get 12 to 16 months out, we're right into the beautiful time of the next cycle, which basically just falls right in line with everything.
What you're talking about? Like a market? Are you talking about a market cycle or something?
Yeah, like the 4-year cycle.
Oh, a Bitcoin cycle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think on Bitcoin, the reason I think Bitcoin is played out and there are no more cycles is I don't think there's anybody left to come in, right? They got Wall Street in and they got all these Bitcoin ETFs that are loaded up with Bitcoin. They got MicroStrategy and Mara and a few other companies that borrowed a page from this madman's playbook. And so you have a few companies that have leveraged up their balance sheets or issued stock and bought Bitcoin. And then they took it to the government and they tried to get the US government to buy Bitcoin. And the US government basically said, okay, no, we're not going to buy it, but yeah, you guys gave me a lot of money in my campaign. I owe some people who helped elect me. I said we'd do this Bitcoin reserve. We got a reserve. We're not going to sell the crap we got, but that's it. We're square. We're done. And so the U.S. government's not coming. The German government, the Chinese government, the French government, the Australian government, none of these governments are going to buy this crap, right? So the pyramid was looking for new buyers, and they ran out of buyers in the private sector, people willing to buy with their own money, right? The greater fools were already on board. And after they got the speculators from the stock market with the ETFs, they did the politics. But I think that what's going to happen in this decline, and I don't know when it's going to hit big, but at some point, and maybe when Bitcoin cracks back below 50,000 or 40,000, but at some point, I think you're going to get mass selling from the ETFs. And that's just going to just implode the market. I mean, really implode the market. We could be looking at, easy sub 20,000, maybe sub 10,000 on that kind of big liquidation. And I think that once a lot of the people who really are not in crypto because they give a shit about money or the government or digital gold, or they're not libertarians, they don't care about any of the philosophical underpinnings that got a lot of people passionate about Bitcoin. They just thought they could make money. They just bought it because it was going up. They were being inundated on CNBC with one commercial after another. Everybody comes on CNBC. Bitcoin's going to 1 million. Bitcoin's going to 5 million. You got to buy it. Everybody has to buy it. And so they bought it, right? When they end up selling and take their losses, they're done. They're out of the market. And so it's going to be very, very hard to reflate that bubble. And then at some point, MicroStrategy's got to sell. And I think that, once you see a big drop, if Bitcoin goes from 100,000, down to 10,000, 20,000, there's no way you can't argue that it should be in a strategic reserve, that the government, all they say, thank God the government didn't buy it, right? So all that talk, no governments are going to want to touch it. So and then eventually people are going to worry, why should I buy Bitcoin when MicroStrategy is going to have to sell 700,000 or however money he has, or maybe he'll be up to 1 million at some point. He's about 500,000 now, but he's going to keep buying all the way down. That's the crazy part about it. He's going to keep selling stock and buying Bitcoin until he can't do it anymore, because the stock has crashed so much, he doesn't have any more currency that he can use to buy the Bitcoin, and he can't do it at a negative Bitcoin yield, because the minute he has to do a negative Bitcoin yield, I mean, it's it. He's done. So I think people are going to move on, and it's going to be obvious Bitcoin's not digital gold. And this story is over. And the crypto industry, that's going to be another part of the recession. I don't know how many jobs are in the crypto industry, but they're all going away. All these companies are failing, like the dot-coms, except some of the dot-coms survive. I don't think any of these crypto businesses are going to make it. So they're going to go out of business. Their employees are going to lose their jobs, and all the spending that was associated with crypto, well, it's all going away. So I would just say, if you're in it, if you want to win the game, get the hell out, right? Whoever has the most Bitcoin when the music stops is the biggest loser. Anyway, Paul, are you up? You're still muted.
Yeah, I'm here.
Try to. Hello?
Yeah, can you hear
Paul? Yeah, I can hear you. Maybe you can start taking over, picking these guys to talk.
Yep, I got Forrest up next.
Okay, put them up.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Hey, so I talked to you last time about MicroStrategy, but my question is given MicroStrategy did a .com pump and dump, how do you think they've been so successful literally doing the exact same thing twice?
It's the environment that he's in. The speculative mania. So many people are in on this crypto nonsense. And when you surround yourself with people who believe the same thing that you do, and everything that you believe is reinforced by what they believe, and you're all on the same page, and you're all getting excited about it, and you can't recognize anything that contradicts this narrative that you've built up in your mind, and especially what really emboldens them is guys like me, right? Who I'm speaking objectively. I understand economics, understand money, gold. Right? I understand everything about Bitcoin. I know all this crap about it, but because I understand it, I've been critical of it the entire time it's been going up. And so what happens is the people who just bought it and, hey, what does Schiff know? Right? We made
Right.
all this money, so you don't know anything because Bitcoin is 100,000, and you were saying it was a bubble, it's not gold, all this all the way up. That's true. But what's gonna at some point on the way down, right? They have to acknowledge, oh shit, maybe he was right, right? Because then now all of a sudden, the reason that so many people have paper profits, the reason that Bitcoin is as high as it is because so many people haven't sold it. That's the reason. They haven't woken up. They're still holding it. But everybody who owns Bitcoin, believe me, they will sell at some point because they want to buy stuff. They just don't want to collect Bitcoin and go to their grave with a Bitcoin collection. The point of buying Bitcoin is to get that Lambo, right? You want to sell it and get stuff. And the reason people aren't selling now is they think if they hodl it long enough, they'll be able to get a lot more stuff. And it's almost like it's the fear of losing the profits, right? Nobody wants to sell their Bitcoin because they don't want to give up all the gains that they're confident they're going to have. At some point, that emotion is going to switch, and people are going to be afraid of losing money, not afraid of missing out on making money. And then it's like, shit, I better sell now while there's still something left. And as soon as that mentality takes over, it's done, right? I mean, it's just gonna implode.
So since MicroStrategy literally revolves around Bitcoin going up to succeed, do you think they could be used as like a poster boy for a new law that, that regulates stocks differently than they've been? Like, how was he able to do that during the dot-com era and then do it
Well,
again during
I
crypto?
don't know exactly. There's so much crap going on during the dot-com bubble, and he was part of that bubble, and that was, I guess, his training for this bubble. But there is going to be more regulation. Unfortunately, all the money that people are going to lose in crypto is going to end up. There's going to be more government regulation, and all of this, unfortunately, is going to be a big blemish on Trump that he did not need because he's already kind of wrapped around it, and going to reflect negatively on Trump. Because Trump said he wants to make America the crypto capital, the Bitcoin capital. So if it turns out that was a big bubble, that really calls into question his judgment, right? Like, okay, so
Yeah.
like Trump, you thought this was so great, and look what happened. Why should we believe anything you say? You were dumb enough to buy in on this crypto crap. So why should we listen to you? So I think the Republicans, and I've said this, I think they're going to lose maybe the House and the Senate in 2016 because there's going to be so much garbage that the Democrats are going to have, to just put at Trump's feet as far as the recession, the inflation, because he promised, you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. That's the problem. He promised, so much, and he's not going to be able to deliver. In fact, it's going to be worse. And of course, it would have got worse had Kamala won. But that's not going to matter because that's not, the polls, the people are not, aren't going to know that. They're just going to say, shit, I voted for Trump because I hope things were going to get better, and they got worse. So it must be because of Trump. So now I got to vote the other guys, right? It's always throw the bums out whenever there's a problem.
Yeah, makes sense. Would you say that it's like Elon's silence on blockchain overall is strategic since he used to tout it so heavily?
Yeah, I mean, I think Elon is a smart guy. I mean, he's way smarter than me. And there's no way, because I know that when he got in on Doge, I think he specifically picked Doge because it was a joke. and he just wanted.
Right.
That's his sense of humor. I mean, he's kind of like me in that respect. I mean, I think we have a similar sense of humor. He said maybe he has Asperger's. I'm somewhere there too. I have it a little bit, and I think we have some things in common. Not that I'm on his level intellectually. I'm not even close, but I think I get parts of him, and I always thought that he was, joking with people about it and just like having fun with it and seeing like how he could move the markets and play around with it. So I don't think he believes in it. I think he knows it's a bunch of crap.
Yeah, I think it's interesting though, since he made his first million off PayPal. For him to be at dinner with David Sachs last night, and crypto moving towards like a payment processing operation, it seems like he should be speaking out or know a lot more than he publicly admits. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of people are just, don't want to criticize it because, they don't want to appear to criticize Trump. They want to kind of support the president. And I've never liked that. I mean, I will support the president when the president does something that's good. But if the president does something that's bad, I want to call it out. I don't want to support it. And then when it blows up, you don't have any credibility if you just, cheerlead when somebody does something. And I know like that's what's happening with tariffs, because I know there are a lot of Republicans who I know who understand tariffs and who are against these tariffs, but they're afraid to say something about it because, it's Trump. And all they'll say is, well, he's using them as a negotiating tool. Negotiating tool for what? What is he negotiating? I mean, it's like this is all BS.
Yeah, crazy stuff going on for real. Last thing, like, how would you think, like, given all of the currency issues going along, how do you think that affects treasuries overall? And how could treasuries actually play into, a digital financial situation?
Well, they're hoping that stable coins will come out and hold treasuries, be buyers of treasuries, right? Like, I mean, who the hell needs that? I mean, it's easy to send dollars. If I need to send somebody dollars, I got all kinds of ways to do it. So I don't think there's going to be this huge new untapped market for stable coins pegged to the dollar so that they'll have a huge place to hold all these treasuries. But that's what they're looking at. They're looking at, I think most of the stable coin dollars have to do with people trading in and out of crypto. And so they need, something a pair where they can get out of, if they want to buy and sell, they need to have something to buy when they sell Bitcoin or Ether. So I think when the collapse of crypto happens in these coins, there'll be a lot less interest in the US dollar stable coins. So I think this whole thing is just going to collapse.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, so how would Japan affect that with their
all
rising
that. I
yields?
mean, sovereign debt is going to become more expensive. So Japan's going to be paying more to borrow money. Germany's going to be paying more. Everyone's going to be paying more to borrow money, which means the U.S. is going to be paying more. But the problem is we owe so much. We can't afford to pay more. So that's why either we default or we inflate.
Makes sense. All right. Hey, have a good day.
Let's go with R8D. Or crypto in my veins.
So I agree that most of these crypto projects are going to fail. That's very likely, just like in the .com era. But Peter, would you also agree that some of these cryptos are basically like new companies, new equities, or new stocks, a new form, and that some of these companies have some great things going on and have a great chance of being successful? Yeah, I know a lot of these projects are absolute trash and have no business being in the space whatsoever, and that does need cleaned up. But what do you feel about the innovation side of it and the growth of where we can go from here, as far as transparency with this and, changing the world and making it a better way to spend money globally?
Well, if there's any real legitimate innovation going on anywhere in crypto, I think there's so much crap that's around it that there's no way to really find it. And it's not, you got to get rid of all this nonsense first. You got to bankrupt all these companies. You got to, you got to move out, let the cryptos crash. I mean, there may be, look, all the stuff that people talked about 10 years ago on blockchain. Oh, we're going to have stocks on the blockchain. Well, no one's trading stocks on the blockchain. You're going to have the title to your car on the blockchain. Well, I haven't seen that yet. Real estate titles on the blockchain. We don't have that. I mean, we're not even tokenizing gold in any big way, which would really work for the blockchain. So it's not. There's nothing really there. It's too much hype on. Let me create this worthless token. I mean, look at all the money that they made with Trump coin and Melania coin. I mean, what the hell is all that, right? And so, as long as you can make all this money doing that shit, that's what people are doing. And so the whole, I mean, all this. It's like a cult, fanatics thinking, they're not changing anything, right? There's, this is not like Michael Saylor says, oh, Bitcoin is like the wheel, like, is this transformative? No, it's not. I mean, it's absolutely garbage. I mean, if you want to say, okay, blockchain, somebody, they invented a blockchain, which has been around. It was, in fact, Bitcoin wasn't the very first. There was they had the blockchain out there. Then Satoshi, whatever, used it with Bitcoin, but he didn't invent the blockchain. So the blockchain's been around. People could use blockchains. Where does blockchain fit? I mean, I don't think it's, the wheel, or a lot of other, I don't even think it's the stirrup. The stirrup was a big invention, to put on a saddle. For a long time, you didn't have a stirrup. And so, you weren't stable. So you couldn't hold weapons and shit in your hands until somebody finally put a stirrup on a saddle. I think that is more transformative than Bitcoin. Who's next?
Rich.
Hi there. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so we've seen metals often drop in previous market pull downs, but do you see it being at least somewhat different this time with gold holding the line due to the amount of physical bullion being imported back into the U.S. recently?
Well, I think what's significant about gold still being around 2,900 and right near its high, and Bitcoin being deep in a bear market, down like 30% or whatever it is from its peak. And in fact, Bitcoin is substantially below its peak price in November of 2021 in terms of gold. So despite all the hype and all the money thrown at it, Wall Street, the slick Madison Avenue ad campaigns and the Super Bowl ads and the NFTs and El Salvador and MicroStrategy or all this crap, Bitcoin has gone down versus gold. Gold's had none of that money behind it, no advertising. The public's been selling gold for over a year, yet gold keeps going up and Bitcoin's going down. And I think one of the reasons that Bitcoin was able to thrive in the earlier years was because gold was going nowhere. Bitcoin came on the scene in 2011, and that's when gold peaked at about 1,900. And then gold went from 1,900 down to 1,000 in 2015, and it didn't even get back above 2,000 until last year. So gold really went nowhere for the whole period of time that Bitcoin went from pennies to 100,000, right, or somewhere near there, and not quite 100, maybe 60, 70,000. And so it was the fact that people were getting frustrated with gold that led people to buy Bitcoin. And then people said, look, gold sucks. It's going nowhere. Bitcoin's a much better store of value. It's gone up 10x. It's gone up 20x, which doesn't make it a store of value. It just means the price went up. But people thought, well, that's the same thing as being a store of value. Well, it's not. But my point is that now that gold is going up, and I believe gold is going to keep going up, it's going to go to 4,000, it's going to go to 5,000, it's going to go to 6,000. And Bitcoin is going to be going down. And that's going to take away a lot of the impetus and the hype that got people to buy it. Because if real gold is actually performing, if real gold is going up, then why do I need to fool around with fake gold? Why do I need this digital copy of gold when the real thing is doing great, right? It was one thing when the real thing wasn't going anywhere and Bitcoin was going up. But when the real thing is going up and Bitcoin is going down, what's the argument for Bitcoin? So I think it's going to be very difficult for Bitcoin to recreate the conditions that led to its original success.
Okay, got it. And then when this move happens, and I see it happening, sooner than later. I mean, do you think there will be a difference in demand, when it comes to numismatics versus just, your generic 1 ounce gold bar from like Val Canby?
Yeah, I mean, numismatics, I mean, that's a collectible market like baseball cards or paintings so it depends on the collectors. I think in general that if there is a big bull market in gold and silver, that generally means that more people are interested in collecting rare coins. I don't, recommend that people, get into that. It's a lot more specialized. I recommend gold as a store of value, as a monetary substitute. A rare coin is not that. I mean, yes, a rare gold coin. You might pay $100,000 for a gold coin that has an ounce of gold. You're not paying $100,000 for the gold. You're paying it because it's one of 10 coins that still exists,
Right.
and it's 150 years old and whatever it is. Just like when you buy a baseball card, you're not making an investment in cardboard, right? The card that whatever that paper is worthless. I mean, you're buying the rare, card, the rookie card from Babe Ruth, and there's only 3 left, and mine's in perfect condition, right? So that's what you're buying. You're buying a rarity, and there has to be demand for it. Like just being rare. If nobody cared about baseball, if there was nobody passionate about baseball, then these old baseball cards wouldn't be worth very much. But because you have a lot of people that grew up as kids collecting cards, they love the sport, they have their heroes, because there's a big market, and some of those people succeed and become very rich, they want to own these things. Right, so you have to have it. There's like they talk about the crypto, the NFTs. No one's going to want to collect those things. No one's going to give a shit about those. And so it's all same thing with these meme coins. Nobody is going to want a collection of meme coins. People would be embarrassed to admit they had one at some point.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Well, I appreciate the input. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Josh is next.
Josh?
Josh, you're on mute.
Yeah, while we're waiting for Josh. Yeah, so again, people, you can get out of these crypto tokens. You can get out of Bitcoin or Ether or Solana or Ripple, whatever you got. Don't worry that you're not selling the high. You're high. It's high enough. A lot of people years ago, imagine you're buying Bitcoin and talk about Bitcoin being $79,000. I mean, that's a hell of a price to get for nothing. So it doesn't mean, just because it's not 109,000, right? You can't get these benchmarks and think, oh, Bitcoin is cheap because it was 109,000 and now it's 79,000. No, it's expensive because it was $1 and now it's 79,000. So don't get caught up in thinking that it's cheap because it's not as insanely priced as it was a month ago, because it's still insanely priced. What is cheap, I think, are these gold mining stocks. So even if you have a higher price, even if you have to take a loss on your Bitcoin, you can make that money back in these mining stocks and then some. I think you can get 10x or more, a lot more maybe, on these gold mining stocks. So if you want to gamble and you want to take a risk, that's where the risk reward makes a lot of sense. And my gold fund is Europe Pacific Gold Fund, EPGIX, is the symbol for the fund, Europe Pacific Gold Fund. No load. You can get it anywhere. You go to europac.com, go to our website. You can buy it on our website. You can talk to the representatives. I also mentioned my dividend payer fund, which was up 15% so far this year, which, it's still way underperformed the S&P over the last 10 years. But I think over the next few years, it's going to kick the butt out of the S&P 500 and make up for those years of underperformance. Because I think the S&P is going a lot lower, and I think these international value stocks are going a lot higher, and they're going to pay a lot of dividends. And the dollar's going lower, I think, which means that the dollar price of these stocks goes even higher. You get a double whammy when you buy foreign stocks that go up when the dollar goes down, because not only do you win on the stock, you win on the currency, because the stock is denominated in the currency. And then if you get a dividend, then you win 3 times: the stock, the currency, and you get your dividend. Do we got anybody up?
Just Josh. He's still there.
Oh, well, Why don't you unmute somebody else? Because I see he's on mute.
Nobody else has requested yet.
Oh, I see a few people. Matt, Donald. Don't you see those guys on the top there?
No, I have 0 people requested on my end.
All right, let me see this guy. Add a speaker. All right. Who did I just pick up there? I think I just.
Hey, Peter.
Hey, who's that?
Hey,
Matt.
this is Matt. Yeah, Matt Tito. How are you?
Good.
I just had a question. You see the United States getting involved with Bitcoin, the strategic reserve thing. Trump has a lot of Bitcoin people surrounding him. With my experience with the government, just like yours, probably anytime the government gets involved with anything, they usually screw it up, and it usually ends up being a disaster. I fear that's probably what's going to happen with Bitcoin. Is now that the government's getting involved, whether it's Trump or it's the president after that, who's a Democrat, or somebody else who isn't as bullish on Bitcoin, they're going to end up screwing this entire thing up. Because in the beginning, Bitcoin was for the people. So now that the governments are getting involved in Bitcoin, it kind of seems like the antithesis of the reason why we even had this whole idea of Bitcoin to begin with. What are your thoughts on some of that?
I've been pointing out that hypocrisy for a while now. The whole point of Bitcoin was to move away from government and to move away from third-party custodians, to move away from Wall Street, to kind of get out of the system and to be independent. And and basically, they lost both. They sold a soul to Wall Street for the ETFs to get in bed with BlackRock and Fidelity and Cantor Fitzgerald and all the big Wall Street firms come and get it. And now they've got the government involved, and now the government wants to hold it and build reserves of it. It's the opposite of what it was supposed to be. But I think the reason that this has happened is because there were originally people involved in Bitcoin, very much philosophically like me. And the reason that I didn't get involved when I first learned about it, and obviously I should have because I could have made a shitload of money, but I didn't do it because I ultimately didn't see that Bitcoin was digital gold. I didn't think it had those characteristics. And I never envisioned when I first learned about it, when it was, like $1 or whatever it was, I couldn't imagine that enough people would even care to buy it. Like, I knew I was in such a minority of people who didn't like the government, didn't like the Fed, would have been attracted to Bitcoin. I didn't see this bubble that was created. But what happened was, when the guys like the Winklevoss and some other guys got involved in it and started to buy it, they saw it as an opportunity to make money. They were like, hey, there's only 21 million of these. Let's take a big position. Let's hype it up, and then we can sell, right? It's like a giant organized pump and dump. They thought, this is the perfect asset. We've got a great, sexy story. Let's buy up a bunch of this crap, and then let's, put out all this stuff, and let's just create a market so that we can sell what we own, right? And they did that. And they're the guys that really wanted it on Wall Street. They wanted the ETFs. They wanted the strategic reserve, because the main thing that they care about is the price of Bitcoin. They're trying to make money. They're trying to get the price up. And so they need buyers. They need to sucker in more buyers. And part of the strategic reserve and part of the hype was to say, hey, if the US is going to buy it, it's going to be a rush. All the other countries are going to want to get in. Once they see America buying Bitcoin, they're all going to have to buy, right? That was the hype. But I know deep down that the real crypto believers who are very much sympathetic with my ideology, this is not what they wanted, right? They didn't get into Bitcoin to get rich. They actually believed in the promise of Bitcoin. And the whole thing has basically been commercialized, and so we'll never know if it would have worked. I mean, I don't think it was going to, but we'll see. After the whole thing collapses, after it falls apart, after Bitcoin is back down, maybe it'll be back down below $100 again. Maybe at some point, we clear out all that nonsense. Maybe there'll be something there that we could actually use. I don't know, but we'll see. But I think that all the speculators, all the hot money, all the leverage money, all this crap has got to be flushed out of the market before you can even think about, what's going to happen after.
And what happens if the United States, for instance, buys such a huge stake in Bitcoin? doesn't it eventually just become a one giant meme coin? Can't they just rug us all if they decide to sell it at some point?
The thing is, the only way that Bitcoin is going to stop falling, I think, is if the government does that. They're going to have to start buying it. But I think they'll look, it'll look like a bailout. If they start buying it now, it's going to look like a bailout. How do they justify buying it? So, but yeah, I mean, I put that on X today. It's an executive order that created the reserve, not an act of Congress. So the next president could just say, sell that. I don't want a Bitcoin reserve. Get rid of it, right? I mean, and then what happens? Then, because you always have the specter, you have this big pot of Bitcoin that's owned by a government, and every time there's an election, it's going to be, well, what if the anti-Bitcoin candidate wins and decides to sell it? So yeah, I mean, whenever you have big concentrated owners, there's the risk that they sell. That's why I'm saying MicroStrategy is going to have to sell one day. They're not going to have a choice because their creditors are going to want their money back. And the people who loan MicroStrategy money don't want Bitcoin. If they wanted Bitcoin, they would have bought it. They wanted the upside of Bitcoin without the downside risk. And they thought they got it with those convertible notes. But what they forgot was that he could issue so many notes that he bankrupts the company. And then, so all these guys that thought they were gambling on Bitcoin risk-free are going to find out that there was a lot of risk, right? There's a sucker born every minute, and a lot of those suckers bought MicroStrategy notes.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Peter. Appreciate it.
All right. Anybody else? We got almost 1,000 people on this now, so we got to have more people that have questions. I'm sure there's all kinds of spaces going on right now about you got to buy the dip. This is a great opportunity. Everybody's got to load up the boat. The problem is everybody already loaded up the boat at 100,000 because that was a great opportunity. Oh yeah, we're going to get the reserve. We got the Bitcoin president. This is going to be great. You got to get all in. We're going straight up to the moon, right? This is a bunch of nonsense, right? You got to sell. You got to protect yourself and protect your profits or cut your losses. I mean, if you're in Bitcoin right now and you have losses, you are way late to this party. Most people should have big gains if you're in Bitcoin. You should have big gains, and there's no problem getting out and taking those gains, taking those chips off the table, and going home a winner, right? If you waited so long to buy Bitcoin that you're in a loss now at 78,000, you got some serious problems. But one thing you can do is get out and take a small loss. There's an old saying that a small loss is your best friend because a small loss is a hell of a lot better than a big loss. I've taken both over my career. I've lost a lot of money doing dumb things and where I wish I'd have sold. And the same thing is going to happen with Bitcoin. People are going to wish they sold who didn't sell. Right now people are pissed that they sold. Oh shit, I shouldn't have sold my Bitcoin at 20,000 because now it's at 80,000. Well, eventually people are going to be saying, shit, I should have sold my Bitcoin at 80,000 because now it's at 10,000. And that means the guy that sold at 20,000, he's still better off, right? Than the guy that rode it up to 80,000 and rode it all the way back down to 10. Who's next?
Slacker.
I just had a quick question because you said the next president, whoever that is they could just get rid of it, which is totally true, right? But isn't that the same thing that happened to gold in the 70s when they took it as when they stopped backing the dollar with it? That's like the same exact thing. So what is gold now? Now, I'm not saying gold's going away either. Listen, I'm not saying gold's going whatever. I'm not saying Bitcoin's going away. I don't think any of this is going away. You know what I mean? But I'm saying like the government rugged us on gold. Literally. So like it's the same thing. So what's so I love gold. I love silver. I love all
the government didn't rug us on gold in that when we went off the gold standard, gold was at $35 an ounce or $42 an ounce. So if you own gold, you made a killing when we went off the gold standard. It's just that if you owned US dollars, you got killed because before we went off the gold standard, your dollars were backed by gold. When we went off the gold standards, your dollars were backed by nothing. And that's why prices went up. So they rugged the dollar. They didn't rug gold. They rugged the people who held dollars. The people who held gold, were fine. They made a lot of money. And so it's a different situation. Now you're saying, could governments that are holding gold, could they decide to sell their gold? They could, but I don't know why anybody would. I mean, gold is the best reserve asset that a central bank could have, and I don't know why they would want to sell it when they keep buying. And all the gold, no central bank is down on their gold. That's the one asset that they own that nobody has a loss in. And so that's the most stable thing that a central bank can have to back up its fiat currency, is to have a reserve of gold. And so I don't think governments are going to stop buying gold at all. In fact, I think more governments are going to be buying more gold. And so, and they're going to rug the bondholders. They're going to rug people that have fiat currency. They're going to create inflation. They're going to destroy the value of their debt, because there's no way they can repay that debt. So they have to inflate it away.
So and it'll never get backed by gold again. Will it ever get backed by rare minerals like gold again? Is that possible?
Well,
because
no.
where are we going with all this? Because if Bitcoin's not it and the dollar's not it, and then you know what I mean? Like, so it's like we're all in this weird.
No. I think gold will. I think eventually we'll be back on the gold standard, because I think once there's a complete loss of confidence in fiat currency, once you have really rampant inflation in the major economies, especially the United States, in order to reinstill confidence in the money, I can't think of anything other than a return to a gold standard that would do it. So I think we're going to go back there. I mean, it's not an accident that we've used gold for thousands of years as money. And along the way, you can go back to periods of time, ever since they invented the printing press, there have been countries that have gone off the gold standard and tried fiat money. And it's never worked for a long time, and they always go back to gold. So we've only been on a fiat system, really, for 50 years, which is a long time relative to past, attempts to use it. But if you want to compare 50 years of fiat to 5,000 years of real money, it's a blip. And we're going to go back to gold. And so let's say, somebody is studying the monetary history of the world 1,000 years from now. The period that we were using paper is just, maybe it'll be a chapter or a few pages in a chapter, right? Because it's going to be a short period. We will be back on a gold standard. There's no question in my mind that that's going to happen.
Thank you for having me up.
Who's up next?
E-ghosts.
Hey, Peter.
Hey.
Thanks for being one of the few people to say what you actually believe. Because of you and Ron Paul, I bought my first ounce of gold for $600.
All right, good.
And so you mentioned international stocks. You mentioned Hong Kong. I like Argentina. Who else?
Yeah, I've talked to my team about looking at Argentina, because I really like what Milei is doing down there. And the reason that Milei got the mandate that he did was because things were so bad for so long in Argentina. And we did own some Argentine bonds in our global bond fund, and so we did well there. I'm optimistic. I mean, I've even thought of about maybe that's a place I'd want to go down and live. But I think of they're a country that has a lot of potential. Now, it's tough. I mean, because they may not stay the course. That people may, go back to big government. It's very intoxicating. The promises of the socialists, and that's the problem with democracy, because it's easy to convince the majority of the wrong thing, right? So that's why if you're a pure democracy, you're doomed to fail, right? Because you're always going to do the wrong thing. Because the majority is always going to want to do the wrong thing. It's very rare that the majority gets anything right.
So where we got to buy international stocks, but I'm not going to buy German stocks right now.
Well, you know what? Germany is at a record high, but a lot of the stocks that we own in Germany, we have some good companies in our fund that are making 52-week highs, but they're not expensive companies. I mean, they're not, they didn't go from really expensive to bubbles. I mean, there's still a lot of value, because those markets have been really dead in the water for the last 10 years. It's been the U.S. market that's been going up. Everything else has been going sideways. So I think this is a beginning of a big change in momentum, kind of like what we had from 2001 to 2011. We had 10 years where the foreign markets blew away the U.S. market, and that turned in 2011, and then we had a decade of the U.S. market just going ballistic, and the rest of the world going sideways. And so now that's changing, and so you should be buying those stocks. But you don't have to buy them yourself. Just buy my funds. I've got the Euro Pacific Dividend Payers Fund and the Euro Pacific International Value Fund. So international dividend payers, international value, and I got an emerging market fund. So you can get information on all these mutual funds at my website at europac.com. But I think that's the best way to buy foreign stocks. I have the foreign stocks that are the least exposed to the U.S. So,
All right. Thank you,
yeah.
Peter.
Who's next?
I don't have anybody else on my end other than Josh, if he's still there. But if you can see anybody else, I don't have anybody in my request list.
I see a lot of people. It says, well, requested means they want to speak, or is it they have to have a hand up? Let me see. Well, let me get this guy. ACDC. I just added him. ACDC. I'm going to add this guy, LaFlop. First guy to talk is going to get the question, but both of you guys still have your mics muted.
Peter, so in terms of going back to the gold standard, I mean, how do you think that's like? What does that mean? Does that mean we're all going to be carrying around gold bars? Is something
No,
going to replace the dollar? How's that going to look? And especially, we don't even know if there is gold at Fort Knox, right? Or not as much as there used to be.
is, but yeah, no, we don't have to carry the gold around. The gold just needs to be there to back up the currency, and the currency needs to be convertible into gold to keep the government honest. But a lot of it can be digital, just like look, most people today, don't even carry around bills. I mean, maybe they carry them around, but they rarely use them. They use their cards, their phones to pay their bills in dollars that they don't actually have in their possession. So you could do the exact same thing with gold. So I don't have to carry my gold around to spend it.
Okay. So that again though is we're going to have still a certain level of trust in the government then still in the system. So that doesn't solve the Bitcoiners, main issue, which seems to be get the government out of my life, self-custodian money, having the money separated from the bank, separated from the government. Is there a way to solve that problem with gold at all?
Hello?
I can't hear Peter. I'm not sure if anybody else can.
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm not sure where Peter went. Let's see if I can.
Yeah, we lost him.
Yeah, we lost him.
We lost the host. That's a problem.
He's buying Bitcoin.
The host is having connection issues, it says.
Connected. I got disconnected. All right. Looks like I'm back in the same room. I don't know how I don't know how I got lost, but anyway, I'm back. Is anybody want to unmic themselves and ask a question?
Let's go with Henry. Or ACDC, if you want to pick up where you left off.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Peter. So I've been investing in hard gold for the last 5 years. And I also invest for my clients where I cannot buy hard gold. So I've been using GDX, the miners ETF, and also some of the miners, but I'm actually out of any individual miner names. So my question is twofold. I know you talked a little bit about the miners and kind of recommend them. There's some miners who are doing pretty well in terms of like Royal Gold and Wheaton Precious Metals, but then there's some like I think Rio Tinto, Newmont, which are kind of not doing all that well, at least in their stock price. So if you have any comments on individual miners, and then
Yeah, I mean,
secondly, sorry, can I just ask the second part of my
yeah,
question
okay.
quick? Sorry, is that as far as the ETFs go, IAU, GLD. The question came up earlier in terms of what about the gold at Fort Knox, right? So a lot of these trusts are being backed up by some gold. And if we lose the trust of that, then what happens to the prices of some of these ETFs, if you have any insight on that too?
Well,
Thanks.
if it turns out that those ETFs don't have the gold, then the price of those ETFs goes down and the price of the actual gold goes way up. Because now, the gold's not actually there, and people who thought they owned gold don't have it. Now they have to go into the physical market and buy it if they want to get gold. But yeah, I'm not just mildly bullish. I mean, I think that gold stocks are primed because I think the Fed is going to go back to QE. They're going to cut rates, and the biggest beneficiaries are going to be the gold mining stocks. I think they're just going to go ballistic, and I think people just buy them now. I mean, I think they're just really cheap. And we have a great portfolio at Euro Pacific Gold Fund. As I said, EPGIX is the symbol for the no load share class that you can get anywhere. But I mean, I think we've built a great portfolio. We got a lot of really small companies that I think have explosive potential. So I think that's the best way to play this next leg up in gold, even more so than physical gold. I mean, I've been recommending physical gold for 20 years, 25 years. It was below $30. I mean, 300 when I bought it from my first clients through the Perth Mint. Now, it's 10 times that much. But the gold stocks are so ridiculously cheap that for people who don't have any positions in gold, I would wait off a bit on the physical, and I would just get in with the metal, with the stocks. And then when we get your first, triple or quadruple, then you can take some profits and buy some physical then. I mean, that's kind of what the strategy I would recommend now, because I think there's so much potential in these mining stocks that you don't want to just buy gold. You don't want to buy gold that might go up 30% in the next year when, when if that happens, these gold stocks could go up, five times that or more. Who's up?
Thank you. I agree with you. And I think the interest rates as they come lower will also help these miners too. So thank you.
Yeah.
Accountable investor.
Hi, Peter. Thank you so much for your time. My question for you is, why is it so important for the U.S. to bring back manufacturing to the mainland if we outsource it to the rest of the world for so cheap? Shouldn't we just focus on our strength of exporting services and let the rest of the world focus on manufacturing goods?
Well, that would be true if we didn't have a trade deficit. So if our services were valuable enough so that we could export enough services to pay for our manufactured imports, you'd be absolutely right. There'd be absolutely no reason for us to manufacture. Also, if we were a net creditor nation where we own more foreign assets than foreigners owned of our assets, and so we were in a net creditor position, meaning that we earned interest and dividends and rents on our foreign investments. So we had all this foreign income coming in on our assets. We could then use that income to buy their goods. But America doesn't have that. We're a net debtor nation. We're the world's biggest debtor nation. So we owe more than we're owed. So we bleed red ink on an investment basis. And we have a huge trade deficit. So obviously, we can't go on like this. We've got to produce some stuff because the services that we provide aren't valuable enough. We can't, I mean, yes, they cover some of our deficit, right? So we don't have to manufacture everything, but we have to manufacture something, right? We got to make more than we do. That's the problem. But the thing is, we can't today because we're not, because it's been so much cheaper to import, and we were able to get away with these big deficits. And the reason we got away with these big deficits was because the dollar was the reserve currency. And if it stays the reserve currency forever, then you could say, well, maybe we can run deficits forever, and so we don't have to manufacture. But we're not going to have the reserve currency forever. And the bigger the deficits get, the less likely it is that the dollar will stay the dominant currency because we have too much debt and our budget deficits. See, when the world loses confidence in the future value of the dollar, then we can't export our dollars to pay for their goods. So the day of reckoning was coming. Whether Trump embraces it and tries to accelerate it or not, it was coming. But it is going to be a painful experience for the majority of the country because we have to, in order to rebuild the manufacturing base, we have to stop doing a lot of things that we've been doing instead of manufacturing. And one of the things we have to stop doing is consuming. So people have to spend a lot less money and save a lot more money. Well, if you've built an economy on a foundation of consumer spending and consumers have to save instead of spend so that we can build factories and infrastructure and supply chains, everything crashes. And a lot of people have to lose a lot of money, a lot of bankruptcies, a lot of defaults. And the problem is, in that environment where people are losing money, they demand the government does something. And whatever the government does is going to do more harm. Because all they can do is create inflation. They can't do anything else. So look, I mean, I've been warning about this stuff for a long time. And the problem is we've been able to kick the can down the road for a long time. So people think, they laugh at my warnings because, look, the Dow is at 40,000, right? Everything is fine. Everything is not fine, right? It is far from fine. And because we've kicked the can down the road for this long, it's way worse than it was when I first started warning about the ultimate consequences of the path that we were on.
Next, Moulin Labe.
God.
Hey, thanks, Peter. It's an honor and a privilege. I've been following you a long time. Curious, being a big gold bug as you are, and I've followed your thesis and have been buying more gold largely because of you, little by little over the last 5 years, and I'm a pretty happy camper right now. But in terms of money, I look at what the U.S. Central Bank has done with our monetary policy, and I can't help but think, as incompetent as I feel as government is, I keep running up against this wall that there are very sophisticated game theory systems, the intelligence communities that certainly know that this fiscal disorder that we're in right now is arguably one of the largest threats to our country. And it was brought to us by our very own politicians and institutions. And I can't square how we're here right now. Is it incompetence, or is it us? I've always heard about China's manipulating their currency, and of course we are too. And there's kind of an economic currency war where we're playing chicken, and maybe they thought certainly they're not going to keep printing, and we did. And that's I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts of, like, really, how in the hell are we in this position right now?
Well, I mean, incompetence is certainly a big part of it, but a lot of it is self-interest, right? You have to understand that our political leaders, first and foremost, act in their own self-interest, right? These guys are not there because they really care about the country and they want to do good. Their career is, I'm a politician, and that's my job. And as a politician, your job is to get reelected, right? Because if you don't get reelected, you're out of work. And so the way politicians get reelected is by giving out free stuff to people and making people think that they're helping them, right? Like, vote for me because I'm the reason that you're successful. I got your back. If anything happens, I bail you out. I give you money. I'm going to make, and so people want to be the hero. They want to be the guy that makes everybody's life better. And so if there's a problem that requires a painful solution, they have no interest in that, because for them, that's okay. I'm out of work. I mean, if I tell the public that, hey, my plan is to have this recession and you may lose your job and your house might lose value, but that's the free market and I'm a capitalist and I believe in the free market, and if we do that, eventually you'll be okay. That's not what the voter wants to hear. The voter wants to hear, I got a bailout, I got a stimulus check for you, don't worry, you're not going to lose your job. I'm going to bail out your employer. I'm going to send you money. I'm going to stimulate this economy. This Schiff is a fool for saying that we got to go through austerity. This bullshit. This is America. We're winners, and we're just going to. We're going to have. It's going to be a boom. That's the guy who gets to vote, right? It's the positive message that wins, not the, we got to pay the piper for all this extravagance. So it's like the longer we keep it going, the greater the incentive to kick that can down the road. And so it's a self-perpetuating situation that just gets worse and worse and worse the deeper we dig the hole. But eventually, you can't do that anymore, and it erupts. And we're not. I mean, we haven't even gotten to that point yet. We're gonna get to that point. Maybe this next round of money printing will bring us to that point, because the last round didn't do it.
If I could follow up, have you read a book called? Someone had put me onto it about a year ago, and I've started to buy a little Bitcoin for the last, I don't know, 6 years. Not a lot of it, but the answer to the question I just asked you was not solely misaligned incentives from those, giving out money, and then this pseudo modern monetary theory where the world reserve, we could just keep printing. And of course, we're seeing that kind of push come to shove, and it looks like we get one more kick down the road. But there's a book called Central Banking and the Enslavement of Mankind by a gentleman named Stephen Goodson. And
Yeah, I haven't read it.
Yeah, it's a fairly interesting take that I don't have to look like you. I don't have to assimilate, speak your language. But if I control your money, that is the real power. And there seems to be some sort of a pattern that aligns with how the United States, and it scares me to speak about it because it's borderline conspiratorial, but it's also a pattern that has been fairly well sourced that aligns with where the financial order of the United States is. And while it does seem to make some sense that we indebt ourselves to everybody, and therefore their interest is aligned with the world reserve currency in the United States, it's not sustainable. And that maybe the answer of the question, which is this kind of incompetence and misaligned incentives that you speak of, is actually more structural and deliberate than may be able to be explained kind of at first. But I'd be curious, if you read that book, because it's kind of wild.
Yeah, I said, look, I didn't read the book, but I mean, central banking has done a lot of harm to not only the United States but to the world. We'd be better off without any central banks. Now, of course, you could say, well, what if the governments just did all this themselves? Yeah, that would be bad too. It may even be worse. But that's why the government should not have a role in creating a central bank, and the government should not, perform these functions. If the government wants money, the government should have to collect it through taxation. But the money itself should be produced privately, not by the government. And it should be real money, like gold. So the real world can create gold. The government can buy that gold and make coins out of it and make it into money, which is what it's supposed to do. And it could, issue paper backed by that gold that it has in its warehouse. But But that's what we should be doing. We should be an honest monetary system where the government, if it needs money, it has to go out and get it. Just like if a private person needs money, I can't print it. I have to earn it. Now, the government doesn't have to earn it because we've given the government the power of taxation. So if the government needs money, it can tax us to get it. But that should be the only way that it can get it. And even if they borrow it, they still have to tax us to repay the loans. What they should not be able to do is conjure money out of thin air, which is what they've been doing. And that has really screwed up the economy. But thanks for your call. Why don't we go to the next guy?
Thanks, Peter. You're the man.
Thank you.
Let's go with INRI.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Peter. One question. I mean, the Bitcoin is currently at a market cap of 1.5 trillion. If we assume when it actually collapses over the next few months, years, what is the actual implication in society over this? There are people who have built their lives, their whole lives, over Bitcoin going up and up and up. So what's the actual impact we're going to have?
Yeah, that's why I've been rooting for this bubble to pop for a long time. And people think, oh, that's bad. Why are you rooting for people to lose money? I'm not. I'm rooting for people not to lose money, because the longer the bubble goes on, the more people are going to lose money. And so the sooner the bubble pops, the better. Now, yes, there are going to be people that lose money now, but more people will lose money later if it pops later. Meanwhile, it's not just the money that's being lost in Bitcoin itself and other crypto, but it's all of the misallocation of capital and resources into this crypto industry that should be going someplace else. Like if we're going to rebuild the manufacturing, then that's where our resources should be going, not to manufacturing meme coins. We need to manufacture actual stuff. But all these smart kids that, are in computer science or engineering, smart kids that are wasting their brain power in the crypto industry, they could be working someplace else. So, the sooner we can bust this bubble, we can free up those resources to go to where they really should go. That's and now you have the government trying to misdirect those resources through subsidies and all kinds of stuff aimed at trying to make us the crypto capital of the world. It's not up to the government to decide this is the industry that we should dominate. It's up to the market. We don't want the government to try to pick the winner, because usually it ends up picking the loser. And we're stuck back in the loser because the government had some political influence. And that's what it always boils down to. Why does Donald Trump want to make America the crypto capital? Because a bunch of crypto people donated to his campaign. That's why. It's not because, the market wants it to be the dominant. It's because his political donors, the most money that he took in his campaign, the most money he got was from crypto.
Have you tried to actually quantify the effect of a collapsing crypto industry when it comes to, I don't know, rising unemployment, falling inflation? What could it be?
It's hard to say. A lot of crypto people don't even have jobs, right? So they're not going to lose their jobs if they're just living off their crypto winnings. And, they borrow against their crypto, or they have.
They're going to try to re-enter the market, though, the job market.
Yeah, so the unemployment rate will go up because they'll go from outside the labor force to now actively looking for work. Yeah, you're right about there. But some people will also lose their jobs because they work for a crypto company that goes out of business. So yes, it is a big bubble, and it's done a lot of damage. The sooner the bubble pricks, the less damage that will be done. But it's already done a lot of damage. One of the reasons our trade deficits are as big as they are is because of the money we're wasting on the crypto industry. Because the crypto industry is not producing anything. It's completely non-productive. Crypto hasn't changed my life at all as far as, I know people that have gotten rich off of it, but it's not like people keep comparing crypto to the internet. I'm using the internet right now. I've used the internet all the time. I never use crypto, right? I use it as a joke. I established my Bitcoin strategic reserve, and my stockpile, right? So I'm now using it because I'm showing how ridiculous it is. The government said we're going to have a crypto stock reserve as long as we don't have to spend any money buying it. So I did the same thing. People want to give me crypto, I'll take it. But I sure as hell ain't going to buy it. I'm not going to spend any money on it.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah, and if anybody on here wants to go, I got a Bitcoin reserve that could use some donations, because that's the only, I have to, it was up to like $4,500 a couple of days ago. Now it's down to around 4,000 because the market loss. I didn't sell any. I'm hodling. If it was up to me, I'd have sold it the minute I got it. But I didn't want to do that to the people who gave it to me for my reserve. I would feel bad. I mean, they gave it to me to hold it, so I'm not going to turn around and screw them by selling it. But I got my reserve, and if anybody wants to help build it up, I put my wallet address on one of those posts for my reserve. I also got a stockpile. My stockpile basically just has Solana, because that's what people have sent me. They haven't sent me the other ones. So I got Solana and I got Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is in my strategic reserve, and I got Solana in my crypto stockpile, right? Just like the government. Who's next?
Tommy.
Hey, Peter. So
Hey.
Trump did a interview the other day with Fox, and the girl asked him basically what's going to happen with like the tariffs, and then Trump kind of just jumped to, well, interest rates are getting lower. So kind of wanted to get your opinion on that, and sorry, I don't have any crypto to give you.
That's okay. And, I don't even feel bad that people are giving me crypto, because they didn't give it to me. They just would have lost it anyway. What's the difference?
Exactly.
In fact, if anybody who gives me crypto wants it back, I don't know how. Yeah, I guess I could. I don't know how you prove that it was yours. I can send it. I mean, I'm not doing anything with it. It's just sitting there. But yeah, I think Donald Trump's administration thinks that one of the things that's going to offset the pain of the tariffs is going to be lower interest rates. But we're not going to get lower interest rates. I mean, even if the Fed lowers them, it's not going to lower the real cost of borrowing for average Americans unless they go back to QE. And if they go back to QE, we get massive inflation. And so that's just going to add to the price pressures from the tariffs. So there is no like get out of jail free card to play here, right? They're betting that we're going to get low interest rates. So yes, we're going to pay higher prices, but we're going to get a lower mortgage or a lower car loan or lower credit card debt. I don't think it's going to work out that way, because we're going to end up with massive inflation. And yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that the economy is going to be so bad under Trump, because there are, there's a lot of good things that Trump says, and there's some good things that he does. And, we'll see, I mean, he's going to be there for another 4 years. Things are going to get really bad. Maybe one day, somebody will introduce him to me and I can have a conversation with him. I have a feeling that he actually does care about the country and does want it to do well. He's just been led astray by a lot of special interests that have, blown a lot of smoke up his ass. And I don't know if I'd be able to convince him to do the right thing, but maybe he could. But it also have to convince Congress, so that ain't easy either. So
we'd love you in the Senate, brother.
Well, Rand's been in there and he hasn't been able to do much. I mean, it's tough, it's a tough battle.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Do we have another?
Yeah, just like follow up. Like,
yeah.
How fast do you think prices are gonna rise?
Well, I mean, there's always a lag, but I think, by next year they could be double digits. I mean, the dollar's going to be going down, and we're printing a lot of money. Stuff's going to get a lot more expensive. It's hard to know exactly, because the velocity can really pick up on the money. People just, trying to dump it as quickly as they get their hands on it. Now, a lot of people think, well, that's going to be great for Bitcoin. People are just going to buy Bitcoin. Well, they could. But I think if it's already collapsing, they probably won't. They'll probably, be still getting rid of it.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye. We got anybody else, Paul?
If you can see them, it doesn't show anybody on my end.
I got a lot of people that say requested. Does that mean they're still trying to speak, or does that mean they already spoke?
Yeah, requested means you can bring them up to speak.
Oh, I got so many. I don't understand why you can't see those guys. I probably got at least, I don't know, because there's like 100 people that are, 50 people at least that are requesting to speak. I don't know why you can't see them.
And it says zero.
Huh?
It says 0 people requested, and it only shows 50 listeners for me. It's weird.
Oh, I'm showing 983 people have joined.
Yeah, as soon as you made me a co-host, it changed all that. Weird.
But it didn't change it for me. I have 55 requested. Yeah, now I'm looking down there. I have 55 people that are requesting to speak. I assume they're all on here. So I'm just gonna grab some of them. Here is LS. LS, you're up. Hello? LS? I'm gonna do this guy light.
Thanks. I've listened to more than 900 episodes,
Oh,
and I
thank you.
remember that you told that in a bear market, there are sharp rallies. So I wonder if you expect sharp rallies, and if so, would you short them?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that if we are in a bear market, which I believe we are, I mean, we're clearly already in a bear market in Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these tokens, but the stock market isn't technically in a bad market yet. But yeah, I think there will be, the Fed could say something to really rally the market. Trump could say something, but I think money is flowing out of U.S. stocks. I think it's got a long way to go. I think this is a big trend. This is not a short-term thing. I think this is the beginning of a cyclical move away from U.S. assets, away from the dollar, and so yeah, you'd want to sell into those rallies. Whether or not you want to short them is up to you. If that's the way you want to, if you want to short things, I'm more generally interested in buying the things I think are cheap and going to go up, and just avoiding the things I think are expensive rather than shorting them. But you can make a lot of money if you do that the right way. But I haven't been concentrating on that. I got a few other people that are allowed to speak. If anybody else wants to chime in.
Yo, what's going on, Peter? Can you hear me, right?
Yeah.
Hey, man. So I just wanted to ask, like, since you think like Bitcoin and everything, all these U.S. stocks are just overpriced, like, what do you think moving forward? How do we go about this? Because I mean, a lot of people are saying to get jobs. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think
about what?
Like overall, since the market is just down, because like there's a meme going around where people are trying to buy job coin. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to show anything. Like get them a job.
That's almost like what a joke. Like, because people need actual jobs, not a coin that says a job. Because job coin doesn't pay you a salary, right? It's like having food coin. That's great. I can't eat it, but look, stocks are overvalued, but they have value. The question is, at what price would they be a good investment? When it comes to something like Bitcoin or a lot of these other tokens, I don't think they have any value really. And so there's no price at which I would become a buyer, because it's all hype.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, look, it's unfortunate that the Fed has created so many bubbles in this economy by keeping interest rates artificially low and printing too much money. And now the Trump administration, what do they actually want? They want the Fed to do more of the same. They want the Fed to cut rates and print more money. And that's how we got into this mess. That's not how we get out of it. It's not like, a hair of the dog. More inflation is not a cure for too much inflation.
I see. But let me tell you something, man. Like the community in crypto is so strong. And I think the Solana community for job coin will prove you wrong, man. With all due respect.
As I said, I wouldn't be. Look, yeah, people could pump and dump job coin. I mean, I'm not. Look what they did with fart coin. They can get fart coin to go up. They could get job coin to go up, right?
Yeah.
Why not? But it's the money that people make on job coin is going to equal the money that other people lose on job coin, right? So if there is no real value created there. It's just money is transferred from the losers to the winners. So and usually the winners are a small group of people who make most of the money, and then the losers is a much bigger group of people that collectively lose all that money. So it's not a good game to play because most people, by definition, will lose the game. As opposed to legitimate investing where everybody can win, right? Everybody can win on a legitimate investment. There doesn't have to be a loser.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your insight, man. I
All right.
appreciate that.
Take care. Who's next? I'm going to add Lake as a speaker. Lake, are you there? Hello? I'm going to add Newtonomics. Newtonomics? Lake is still, Lake is speaking. Newtonomics, you got to, there you are. Can you hear me, Newtonomics? You just got to speak. I see you're unmuted. Hello? All right, I'm going to try Sharon. I just added Sharon. Hello? Anybody? Newtonomics? Sharon?
On recession. Are we close? Are we already in it? Is
I
it
think
gonna
we've been in
happen?
it for some time now, at least a year. I mean, I've been talking about that on my podcast. I think the government statistics really didn't reveal the recession. I think they overreported the job growth. I think they underreported inflation. And that's why I was so confident that Trump was going to win. It was because I knew that in a recession, you throw out the incumbents. And Trump was promising change. And when you're in a recession, you want change. So I think we're in a recession. I think that it will be officially acknowledged at some point this year that we're in a recession. And of course, it will be blamed on Trump, at least by, most of the media will blame it on Trump. Trump, of course, will blame it on Biden. And so there'll be a lot of argument over whose fault it is. But, if you understand the business cycle, recessions are actually the good part of the cycle. They're not the fun part, but they're the part where all the mistakes are fixed, where all the misallocations of resources are corrected. So during a recession, all these crypto companies can go bankrupt. That's a good thing. We don't want these crypto companies in business wasting money. We want to free up those resources, land, labor, capital, to be redirected someplace where they can be put to productive use. But the process of doing that is a recession. While we were doing the wrong thing and screwing up the economy, that's when we had the boom, right? But the bust is when we have to sober up and get our shit together. And so we need the recession. The problem is the politicians always try to fight off the recession because the voters don't like it, right? Just like, it's like if you go to rehab and then instead of letting you go through detox, they give you more drugs. So, so you feel better. That's counterproductive because that's not why you're in rehab. But the politicians, do that. And then, they short circuit the recession before it's able to do all the repairs that it was supposed to do. And so then you start a recovery while you still have, problems underlying the foundation of the economy. And so it crashes again because the government never allows the market to really fix what the bubble broke. And the bubbles are always fueled by cheap money, artificially low interest rates, too much money printing. That's what does it, And I mean, and they're going to be demanding more of the same, right? Because they only have one solution to every problem, right? Print money, spend money that we don't have, print money, create inflation, and try to spend and borrow our way into another recovery, right? But the problem is we're already broke based on all the money we borrowed and spent stimulating the economies out of the prior recessions.
Peter, can I ask you one more thing? What are your thoughts on AI? Because there are a lot of investments happening there. Do you believe that it's going to prolong the recession, make it worse? Is it going to get us out of there if promises are not met with AGI, for example?
Well, as we're making the investments in AI, that is a cost to the economy. That's a short-term cost that if AI delivers on its promise will get a long-term benefit. And I think that there's a lot of potential in the AI technology. I mean, obviously, I think a tremendous amount of productivity can be unleashed using AI. And so I'm very optimistic about that. But I do think it will take years to develop and implement. It's not like, look, how long have they been talking about self-driving Teslas and they're still not self-driving? I mean, there's a lot of this stuff takes time to happen. But yes, I think it will happen. I think there's real value in AI. I think there's real value in a lot of these companies. But the problem is there's such a speculative mania around the industry that we're going to have to flush a lot of that out. But I don't mind. And I think that resources that we are using to AI may be well spent. Now, we may be over-investing. It may be that we don't actually need the data centers that we think we need. There's another Chinese company that came out today, another with AI that can be done for less money, which is great, right? So it's possible that we can get the benefits of AI with a lot less capital investment, a lot less energy, which is good. That's a good thing. But I think that a lot of money's been thrown at it very quickly in an environment where everybody is chasing bubbles anyway. So I think we have to clean out a lot of this speculation, and we'll see where we are. But there is promise there, unlike Bitcoin or crypto, where I don't see any promise at all. I think it's just all hype.
Peter, Bald Guy Money here. Can you hear me, man? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, are you the same guy? I've done a podcast with Bald Guy Money. Is that you?
Yeah, we've done 2 together, man.
All
that
right.
is me.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I didn't know if there was been more than one Bald Guy.
I'm sure there are plenty.
That's
Listen,
what I'm waiting for AI to cure baldness and gray. I want a full head of dark brown hair again.
You were in Turkey last year, Peter. You should have taken your shot.
My shot of what?
At getting your hair back.
No, I don't have enough donor hairs. I've lost so much hair. I don't have enough in the back.
Listen, last week, silver surprisingly closed spot at 32.50, slightly above 32.50, and that's been a key point of resistance for a while. And in fact, I would argue on a technical basis that put us back into bullish territory. Now, with the stock market, just in deep, deep, deep red today. Silver once again has closed above $32 an ounce. Do you think that we're finally seeing the fortunes for silver on the market turn around? And at what point do you think retail is going to start, getting that FOMO and coming in, looking at how high gold is, saying, okay, I'm going to get greedy?
Yeah, it's gonna happen. That's why I've been mainly telling people who, customers of Shift Gold, that they should be focusing on silver right now over gold when you're looking at about 90-to-1 ratio. And the reason that I think silver is still so cheap is because the public is not involved. The main drivers of gold have been central banks, and they don't buy silver. They buy just gold. But when the public starts to buy and compete with the central banks, they will focus a lot on silver, especially since it's still so cheap. So, yeah, while I think the best play is the mining stocks, which includes silver mining stocks, I think the second best play is silver over gold. So I'd buy the mining stocks first. If you want to buy physical metals right now, I would buy silver. That doesn't mean I'm saying you don't buy gold, but maybe in a couple of years, then you just buy gold, because these mining stocks could be a lot more expensive. It's just that right now, these mining stocks are really, really cheap. And that's for the same reason that silver is cheap, because central banks don't buy mining stocks. They just buy the gold that they mine, but they're not buying the stocks. Investors are selling these stocks because they wanted to buy AI stocks, or they wanted to buy crypto stocks, or they wanted to buy crypto. So, when those bubbles pop, right, as the air comes out, the money is going to flow, what's left of it, because a lot of the money just goes to money heaven. But new money is going to start moving into silver. I've been saying that, to me, $30 on silver looks like $2,000 on gold. So we stayed at $2,000 for a while on gold, and I kept saying, this is the bottom. Everybody kept saying, I don't want to buy gold at 2,000. This is the top. And I was saying, no. This is the new bottom. 2,000 is the bottom. You want to buy any dip below because we're just building a floor. We're going to take off. And then we did. I think the same thing is happening with silver around 30, right? This is to gold. This 30 to silver is gold 2,000. People are like, oh, I don't want to buy silver. It's $30. I mean, that's cheap. But I think once it gets comfortably above 50, I think the public will come in. It needs to really, I think, take out that $50 high, maybe a $60, $70, and then people will start saying, okay, it's going to 100, and the public will start coming in. But obviously, you don't want to wait for that when you could buy it at 32. Why wait to buy it at 72?
One last thing, and obviously, I want to give an opportunity to the other people to ask you questions as well. But are you surprised at all, considering the fact that the S&P 500 has basically just given up 9 months of gains in the last 12 trading days? Are you surprised at how strong metals are holding up right now?
No, I'm not surprised at all. And I'm also, what's more surprising is that the foreign stock markets are holding up so well, and that to me is showing decoupling. But the dollar is not rising. See, the times where gold has gone down, when the U.S. stock market has gone down, is when you have a strong dollar, when the dollar is rising, when people are going into the dollar as a safe haven from a market decline. That's not happening. The dollar is going down now. It's not going up. And that is a great environment for gold.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Even in fact, I covered that this weekend in my video. That what we could see in the future is, instead of the investors running to the dollar, what they're going to start doing is simply running to gold.
Right. And because if you think about it logically, if the markets are tanking, what is likely to happen? The Fed steps up and cuts rates or goes back to QE. So they debase the dollar to prop up the financial markets. So why would you run to the dollar when stocks are tanking? You want to go to gold, because gold not only protects you from the market going down, but it protects you from what the Fed does to stop the markets from going down or to inflate the markets back up.
Yeah, gold is the only viable alternative to the dollar. And gold has no viable alternative because the dollar's cooked. Europeans are talking about spending $800 billion on defense. They don't have that money sitting in a savings account somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be all newly generated, printed, borrowed money.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is going to be borrowed, which is going to push up the price of borrowing in the U.S. And it's going to unwind the yen carry trade, all these carry trades where they've used foreign currencies to fund leverage bets in the U.S. on treasuries and on the other end of the spectrum on riskier assets. All this stuff unwinds when all this whole carry has to be unwound. That's a giant global margin call.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you so much for taking my question.
Who's up next? I'm going to go till like 6:30, which is about 18 minutes. Now, everybody's on my time now on the East Coast, because I know 6:30 is when I have dinner. So I don't want to take this long into the night. I'm going to do a podcast tomorrow. So anybody that's interested in hearing more stuff formally, I'm going to be doing a podcast tomorrow. And then I got to travel. I got to go up to New York for some business for a day, and I won't be back in Puerto Rico till Friday. And I'll probably end up, because I got a party I'm going to do Friday, so I probably won't I'll do another podcast probably on Sunday, because we have a CPI coming out on Wednesday, and the markets could get killed between now and the end of the week, especially if that CPI number is bad. But tomorrow I'm going to do a podcast before I leave on Wednesday morning. Who's up?
We got JP.
Hey, JP.
Oh, glad to be here. Thanks for letting me up. I didn't even realize. So Peter, my question to you is, I have a gold ETF, CGXF is the ticker. It's just been really underperforming while other ones have gone up. Do you think I should go into a more, for lack of a better word, exciting one rather than
Well, I don't understand. What's the symbol?
CGXF.
CI Gold. XF. Delta, Gamma, X-ray, Foxtrot?
No, CI Gold. Giants covered.
So we'll
CGXF.
C Charlie Gamma X-ray Foxtrot.
Correct.
Yeah, nothing comes up. Is that on a foreign exchange? What exchange?
Oh, this is on the Toronto Stock Exchange.
Oh, let me see. CGXF-T. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not picking it up, but I don't know what's in it. Then, if is it a mining ETF? What's it?
Yeah, it has a basket of gold mining ETFs, and it just hasn't moved much. So I'm
Well,
wondering.
the gold stocks, they're up this year, but they're still cheap. But I don't know what's in it. But I prefer my mutual fund. But you can't buy that from Canada, so I'm not really sure. What's in there.
Is there any gold stock that would be available on the Toronto Stock Exchange you would recommend that I look
Well,
at?
you've got plenty of mining stocks up there in Canada. I mean, the big ones, you got Franco-Nevada, which has been making 52-week highs recently, which looks good. It had been, it's a royalty company. Agnico Eagle is a good one. That's, those are the top stocks, I think. But also, yeah, you got Alamos Gold's been doing pretty well.
Alamos Gold.
You know what got hit hard today, which I think has been a good stock, but it was down quite a bit today, is I Am Gold. It's down 7% on the day. I mean, there's some stocks that I think are good, that have been down. Kinross. I mean, there's a lot of individual big name stocks you could buy up in Canada. There are Canadian companies.
Well, I was just wondering if, because having the basket of the ETF, that just makes it move slower. And if I won't get, because that was my plan. I have very little physical gold. I have more
Yeah,
physical
but
silver.
if it owns, I mean, I'm sure if it owns a lot of gold stocks, it's going to go up. I mean, the gold stocks as a group are going to go way up. I think my gold fund is going to do better, though. I think we got a great portfolio for the Americans that are listening. The Euro Pacific EPIGX is where you guys should be going, I think. I mean, EPGIX. Yeah, EPGIX. All right, let me take another call because I know I'm running out of time. So let's squeeze some people in.
I don't see anybody else, so you have to let some people in.
There's 54 people still.
Yeah, I looked
this
it up.
is
It said Twitter.
Crafty Pirate. I just added Crafty Pirate. You there? Crafty Pirate? Yeah, I can.
Great, excellent. Thank you for the true honor of talking to you. I've been trying to reach you via Paul, but apparently he hasn't received my messages.
Well, Paul's on this Spaces too, so.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, I wanted to pick your brain. I know that you are a very open individual. I know that you've mentioned Monero in the past. I want to get your idea about, you've always been an advocate for true liberty and freedom. I want to see if you associate with Monero as a cryptocurrency as being something special, as an alternative to Bitcoin, where privacy is the function, and that function is equated to value in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, the original appeal of Bitcoin, when I first learned about it, was that people thought it was private. And so it was a way to circumvent the prying eye of government that was very involved in spying on everybody's banking. And so the original idea, which I thought was the most valid part about Bitcoin, was that if I wanted to transact with somebody and I didn't want the government to know that I was transacting, that was the value of Bitcoin. Of course, that also would make it something the government doesn't want, because they don't want people doing, buying drugs or evading taxes or funding terrorists. And so that made it, and so the Bitcoin, as it turns out, was not really that private, but Monero is. And to the extent that Monero can actually do what I thought Bitcoin could do, but it can't, then that would give some value to Monero. The question is, what's it worth? And the problem with it is, maybe I could use my Monero to make a payment or a transfer, but do I really want to hold on to it? How much money can I put in it? Because the price might crash. But the thing is, where I think Monero would have the most value now would be to criminals and illegal activity, because they're willing to pay the price, right? If you're committing crimes and you need to launder your money, you generally have to pay people money to clean up your dirty money. And so even if you earn $1 dirty and you end up with 70 cents of clean money, all right, you paid 30 points to wash your money. That's a fact, cost of doing business. I think most honest people, don't want to take that risk until you get to a point where the government is really, really oppressive. And now, like, it's not just criminals that need privacy, but everybody that needs privacy, because the government is a criminal. And if you try to fight back against a criminal government and then they, throw you in jail or execute you or something, so you'd want a private way to transact so that the government couldn't, find you. But I know that, the government would crack down hard on anything that did that. But yeah, I mean, there is some value in that. I just wouldn't know how to price it,
Well, the price really doesn't matter. What matters is the value and the function of privacy. The price is really irrelevant when you compare it to the US dollar, because if our goal here is to get out of the system entirely, then we have to go back to private money. And I posit to you that Monero is private money because it satisfies
private. It's
of money.
private. It may not be money, but it's private. I will grant you the privacy part. But yeah, I mean, what would be private if Monero was if let's say Monero was a bearer instrument. Let's say I created Moneros and they were backed by gold. And anybody that had Monero, and I don't know who has it and I can't track where it goes, but anybody who has Monero can show up, right, at my vault and turn in their Monero and get a predetermined amount of gold. That would make it money. But I think if I did that and I was the custodian, the government would come shut me down, right? So it's the government that won't allow money to be private anymore. And so people are trying to invent, alternatives. They're trying to invent like a crypto token that has no central custodian of any real money, because everybody's afraid to act as the custodian because the government's going to come get you. And so you have to just say, well, put your faith in this token. And that's the problem, is say that, how is that token really going to maintain a particular value when you can't do anything with it other than use it to give to somebody else? So it's like, it's not money. It's something that you could use instead of money, because it has privacy. But it's not really money in the sense that it's a commodity that can be a store of value. So that's the problem.
Well, I would suggest to you that listening to others like Mike Maloney about listening to the conditions of money, and that fungibility is in fact a conditional attribute of money.
No, it is. It is. I mean, Bitcoin satisfies a lot of the things that you need money
but not
to do.
fungibility.
But the thing that it doesn't have, and it's the same thing that Monero doesn't have, is the actual value as a commodity, separate and apart from it being used as a medium of exchange and a unit of account, which is why it's not a store of value. And so that's why it ultimately doesn't work, because the value of any of these cryptos is purely a confidence. It's purely based on, do people have confidence that other people will value it in the future? And the problem is, if the price can get too high, then it's even riskier that people don't value it at such a price. So these things, they just don't work. That's the problem.
I see a flaw in your reasoning. I see a flaw in your reasoning, and you're always comparing it back to the US dollar. Now, my posit to you is that you have to think outside of the US dollar.
I'm not limiting my thoughts to the dollar at all.
So okay. So let's say that okay, we have an alternative system here that we can use and transact, and we do in fact have all the characteristics of true money and privacy and function.
But it doesn't have the characteristics. Like, I've used the example of cigarettes, in a prison, and cigarettes have been money. The GIs used them after the war in Europe. They were using cigarettes as money the reason cigarettes worked as money, apart from the fact that, okay, they're fungible, they're divisible. I have a pack of cigarettes. I have, 30 cigarettes in there. This is how much you want for that? 2 cigarettes, 3 cigarettes, whatever. You could use them. But the reason that cigarettes had value was because people smoked them. And even if I wasn't a smoker, somebody smoked cigarettes. And if I didn't want to smoke them, somebody could smoke them. So it was the fact that the cigarettes could be smoked that made them viable as money. And then, they had other characteristics where they could be used. The problem with these tokens, including Monero, is you can't smoke it. You can't do anything with it. So
You can
at the end of the
transact. That's
day, if I've got a whole pile of Moneros, what do I have? I don't really have anything. Yes, if somebody will take the Monero from me, okay. But what's it worth? I mean, like I can say, how much is a barrel of oil worth in terms of an ounce of gold? Or how many bushels of wheat should be in an ounce of gold? Or because you have all these commodities that you can relate to other commodities and their relative use cases and their relative scarcities and try to get a price. But you can't really do that with a token that doesn't have a use case beyond, the transaction. But ultimate privacy, if I want to transact in privacy, I can do it. I can hand you some gold. I can even hand you some paper dollars, and the government doesn't know that we've transacted. So you can still have a private transaction as long as you don't do it electronically.
Well, I would suggest to you that the key factor in both of our arguments is the concept of faith. And the faith in money is the key underlying common denominator of what we're discussing here. But I appreciate your openness, and I suggest to you.
What's the market cap on Monero right now?
It doesn't matter. Again, we're comparing back to US dollar.
I'm just curious, like how much money is, what are those tokens
You're
trading
talking about money. You're talking about money, and I suggest to you that the US dollar is not money. So it's
the dollar isn't money. Well, the dollar's never been money. It's been a money substitute. It's a fiat currency.
But you're asking me to
fiat
compare
currency isn't money.
To a market cap.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, thanks for that. Is there one more quick call? Then I got to run.
Yeah, I have one quick question for you, Peter.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, in the next 50 to 100 years, do you have any fear of humans discovering like an abundance of gold somewhere in space, whether it be an asteroid or somewhere nearby?
Well, I mean, first of all, if we discover an abundance of gold, in the scheme of things, that would be a good thing because gold is very valuable and we need it for a lot of things. So if we were able to come up with a whole bunch of gold, that would be good. It could disrupt the monetary system if, gold was everybody's money and all of a sudden gold was plentiful and it was all over the place. But I think that the odds of us finding such a large quantity of easily accessible gold is very, very slim. Gold is very scarce on Earth, and it's likely very scarce in the universe based on the origins of gold and how it came into being. And so I'm sure there is gold in space, and I'm sure one day we'll mine it. But it's going to be very expensive, I think, for the robots that we send to other planets to mine the gold and actually get it back here. So, I don't think that we're going to do that. Now, if we have a way of just making gold out of the molecules in the air, if we can invent a machine that can just create gold out of nothing, then we don't need any money. Because if we can create gold out of nothing, we can create everything out of nothing. And if we can create everything out of nothing, then nobody needs to buy anything. So nobody needs any money. So if we could get to the point where, I can have whatever I want just by asking for it, right? Then nobody is rich and everybody has everything, right? We've reached a point in human evolution where everybody has everything they want. There's no limiting factor. There's no scarcity that limits us, right? The reason that some people are rich and some people are poor is because everything is scarce. There's not enough to go around. Not everybody can have a private jet, right? You know, because they're too expensive to make, they're too expensive to operate, right? But if I could just push a button and a private jet just magically appeared and it could fly itself and I didn't need a crew and it could power itself just based on the sun or whatever, everybody could have one. I mean, so, you know, so if we get to a point where we could create gold like that, then you're not even going to need money and it's not even going to matter, you know?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And I do think that one day, if we don't, you know, destroy ourselves, I'm sure that we may be at a point, where we even evolve beyond our own bodies and we just exist as energy. In which case nobody needs anything, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, so I don't know where the ultimate evolution of man is taking us. But I think for the foreseeable future, there is a limit on the resources, and we're going to need money, and the best money is gold. But anyway, on that, let me just wrap this up. I'm going to do my podcast tomorrow, shiftradio.com, on my YouTube channel. If you're new on the spaces, you know, go subscribe to my YouTube. You'll get the notification. We also post it on X. If you're not following me on X, you know, follow me. Get your friends to follow me. I've been talking about my funds. You want to take advantage of the Euro-Pacific fund family, or go directly to Europac.com. Talk to my representatives. We do separately managed accounts. Europac.com is the website. The fund, all the information on the funds. I have a value fund, international value, international dividend payers, emerging markets, foreign bond, gold miners fund, 5 funds. These are funds that I think are going to do very well in stagflation in the U.S. as money is leaving out of overpriced U.S. stocks and out of crypto. You know, if you're crypto guys, even if you don't sell everything, sell something, right? Take some chips off the table and do something real. What you don't want is this bubble to pop, all the air to come out, and you took nothing off the table, right? That's the worst thing that can happen, is you fail to sell anything. You got caught up in the hype, and at the end of the day, you walk away with nothing, right? The winners are the people that get out. And so make sure you get out. You know, if you want to leave a little bit of the house's money on the table in case it goes up again and I'm wrong, fine. Right? But take your winnings, take your principal and invest it soundly. So